Okay, whenever a site's been hacked or defaced, whatever, usually what's going on is it's dropping shells in the back end so that way an attacker can come back in later on and either do some damage or more commonly you add some scripts that will implement like FilesMan or something like that and either try to take over the server or attach it to a botnet. So as far as knowing what you're looking at, um, the easiest way to do it is actually through FTP, but through File Manager it's just as easy. So I've identified some folders. I've already cleared out a lot, but I wanted to keep some in here just to record a clip. But all of these that you see with the April 15th and then the same timestamp, every one of those is shells. So one thing you need to pay attention to is the permissions, because some of these have permission 0. And just to show you what happens there, so if I change the permissions back to 0, how it was, and then I click in that folder, it's going to say empty. But as soon as I switch it back to regular permissions, I'm not even going to do 644, I'm just going to do 600. As soon as I do that, and then I go in the folder, it finds the files. And just so you can see what those look like, okay, I had to change the permissions again. Okay, might be better to try it in a different one. Yeah, the way these are done, it's not letting me open them up. But if you click on editor, you'll usually see some encrypted stuff, or it'll say FilesMan and then all kinds of gibberish. Okay, I just realized why the files wouldn't open. I had the permission set at 600 just so nothing in there could run while I was deleting everything. But since I actually want to show you what those files look like, I went ahead and changed the permissions to 700. So when I go into 700, then you'll notice the permission on the file itself is still 000. So if you click on edit, it's just going to be a blank page, just because there's no permissions to view it. So change permissions, read write, change permissions again. Now when I click edit, you see all this gibberish that I was talking about. And the attackers are counting on you not seeing this stuff, or you changing the permissions, or having file loaders or whatever, so that way if you try to do a mass replace or whatever, it's going to you not have permissions from your account to remove it or delete it, whatever. So some scripts are kind of smart. So like this one, for example, would be some type of two-stage attack where you might have some scripts uploaded, and it's usually done through like an uploader through a theme or a plugin like OptimizePress, or it could be a vulnerable script itself like TimThumb, which is actually the cause behind OptimizePress, and a few others, or it could be a script like uploadify, which a lot of themes use. So 9 times out of 10, the culprit is either going to be Tim Thumb or uploadify. So anyway, now that you see what those look like, I want to go ahead and delete those folders. So like I said, the easiest way to do it is to go by the timestamps. As long as timestamp is the same, you know it's something that you don't want. So even CP add-ons, which is an actual folder, just at the wrong level. And when it adds an any.php, in this case, that's just the name, and it's a shell. But a lot of times, the loader will add an any.php to override whatever is either set by the server or for your account. So that's another thing to take into account. Like on our servers, there's no any.php at all. Or I'm sorry, I'm saying that one reversed just because I saw it that way. So that was any.php, but I'm actually talking about php.any. So got a little confused. But anyway, if you see a php.ini, then if it didn't come over from your original hosting account, then it's probably from a hack file. So just to do some cleanup, you can do them one at a time or click and then hold down Control. So I'm just going to go by date, and any of them that say April 15th and then same timestamp. And since I know that the timestamp on those, I'm going to go ahead and scroll down, just see if I see any files with the same timestamp. And so far, I don't see any. So I'm going to go ahead and delete those. And now I'm going to look at other folders that look questionable, like config or conf. And if you notice, the size is the exact same on all of them. So that one's safe to kill. Check inside the CGI bin. Backups. Because even though it looks like actual folder names, that's the whole point. They want to keep shells on there, so after you think it's clean, they can come back in and reinfect. So delete that one. Backups daily, same thing. Okay, this one is a little bit different, and you notice the permissions are 555. So basically, this right here is the culprit file as far as how people are able to get into this account. And if you're not sure what the permissions are, you can always click on change permission, and then it'll show you that it's world readable and executable. So basically, as long as someone has that string or the path to that file, then they can hit that and reinfect the entire site again. So just show you what that file looks like. It's more gibberish. So anytime that you see this kind of stuff, it's bad. But the telltale sign is, whenever you see the base 64 in code, I mean, there are some legit files that have it, but not usually. And even with the uncrypted, you can see string replace and that kind of stuff. So even without being able to see what the code is, you can start to get a sense of it's either changing stuff around or it's going to try to you jump out of the jail from the hosting account and try to escape back into the server. So anyway, close that one out. Okay, cpanel data store, same thing. Passwords, same thing. Okay, so we know that all three of these are dead. Okay, now for the index.php, it should always say 417 or 418 bytes. Anything other than that, it's been compromised. So that's an easy way to tell just by looking at that file. And then for anything that's been changed recently, you might want to go ahead and view it. And as you can see, more stuff. So even though it looks like it might be legit, it's not. So it usually helps if you have an idea of what files are supposed to be with WordPress. But when in doubt, delete them all. And that part can get a little scary. So for the WP config, copy, go make a backup as a just in case. You'll see why in just a second. Okay, first we want to go into WP config, and if you look at the index here, that's 28 bytes, guaranteed. That's going to be a hack file. So all you see is silence is golden, but if you change trying to remember an encoding that shows up on anyway, not that important. Actually, I'm telling you wrong. I was thinking that said kilobytes. 28 bytes. That's actually correct. Okay, but anyway, sometimes you only see silence is golden, but it will be around 28 kilobytes, and it's because of encoding on the encrypted part. So anyway, any folders that are in here, want to do a quick check because we're getting ready to delete everything. So okay, if there's a htaccess anywhere other than the root, you want to take a look at it. Okay, this is a htaccess file where we are forcing any type of PHP files inside here to force a download instead of executing. But still, it's good to check through, just see if there could be any compromised files. Okay, usually when you're in the numbers, I don't think I've ever seen anything in any of those folders. Not saying it can't happen, but usually it's safe to skip those. So uploads looks fine. Make sure nothing's stuck in upgrade. And then themes, plugins, there's really not much you can do there, but it's always a good idea to see if there's a hacked index file in there. And in this case, the files.php doesn't look like it belongs. Click edit and boom, found another one. And that's why you always gotta check everything. So I'm gonna go ahead and delete that. And when it comes to theme files and that kind of thing, it's really hard to tell what is what. But in this case, you're seeing your files that haven't been updated since 2010. Chances are there's some vulnerabilities in there. Especially when you start getting into like the functions file. And it wouldn't surprise me if there were some files in here that have been added recently. Boom. So, I mean, as you can see, the files can go all the way in. And like with this one I just found, basically I was tracing timestamps, with 2010, and then as soon as I saw 2014 and I knew that the theme hadn't been updated, then I knew that there was something else going on. So that's an example of a shell trying to hide real deep. So go ahead and delete that. And one thing to keep in mind is a lot of times the index.php is going to rewrite whatever file was there if there was one. So once you get everything cleaned up, always take a clean version of those files and re-upload them. So in this case, I don't have a copy of those files, but as you can see, this entire theme has been compromised. So if it's being used, that needs to be fixed, because everything that you see here is hacked code. So basically, if you're going to be using a theme and you don't have the original files, the only way to fix it is to manually go through every single file, and all the gibberish right here, go all the way down to where you see the PHP right here. So basically, the PHP at the very beginning, just scroll down until you see it again. And then scroll way up and then replace all that. And now you have a clean file again. Save changes. And going by the timestamp, so February 27th on all three of these, I know that all three of these have been edited. And sometimes it's kind of difficult to see where things start. And in this case, it's where it says doc type. If you're ever in doubt, as long as you know that you have the bad code out there, you can leave the PHP in there. But in this case, it's not really needed. So I'm going to go ahead and take that out of there. because sometimes if you go ahead and leave the opening for the PHP, then it's going to throw some errors because it's not going to be closed properly. Okay, same thing for the index.php. So with every site, yeah, the infection is going to be different, but what you're seeing here is pretty common. So anything that still says 2010, we know those are probably good. So basically you're just looking at recent timestamps. So you're looking for the 2014. We can see includes, and then this index file. So this is the manual way to do it, and it really sucks. So if you have the original theme files, or plug-in, whatever, or preferably an updated version, because the fact that this is from 2010, I don't want it on the server anyway. So I'm cleaning it for demonstration, but hopefully there's going to be an updated version of this theme. Okay, the folders here still say 2010, but when it says JavaScript, you might want to go ahead and look in there just in case, because sometimes the folder names stay the same, but the inside contents can still change if it's multiple levels deep. Okay, same thing for images. So this db.php, considering it's in the images folder, chances are it doesn't belong there. And there's some decode there, so we know to delete that one. Okay, everything else looks good, and whenever you see a cache file, always empty it, no matter what is in there. So if it's in a cache folder, then that means it was rendered from somewhere else. But the main thing with images is you never know if it's an actual image or not. For example, these images were just added today, and I guarantee they were not actually added today. And if you look at the permissions, 666. So if you look at the permissions, that means the world can read and write those files. So even though the extension is PNG, those are not actual images. So someone can execute that file from their server, and there's going to be encoded instructions inside that file, and it's going to execute just like PHP does. So that's another area to look out for. So in this case, I'm just going to go ahead, select all, delete. Okay, and while you're here, you might want to look at permissions for the files and folders. And if you see some files like this, free themes, whatever, go ahead and take a look at it and see if it's from a hack site. Okay. Shell 32, not good. Free premium WordPress themes. Okay. There is a small chance that that's just a regular site, but chances are that is or was a site that people were uploading hack themes. So a lot of times people think that downloading some of those crack themes are the way to go because they don't have to pay 40 bucks, whatever. But people are uploading them for a reason. They have backdoors usually. And even if the originals don't, like from the release teams, whatever, by the time they get on other sites, they may. So I'm going to go ahead and delete that. And it's always a good idea to test like with TAC, which is Theme Authenticity Checker, and always run Tim Thumb Vulnerability Scanner. So, and I'm definitely not advocating using themes from sites like that, but I am saying that if you are not 100% sure where your stuff comes from, then you need to be extra cautious and do some scanning. And whenever I see files like this one, thumb.php, I'll go ahead and take a look at it. And Tim Thumb. So there is the other culprit. So if I logged in to this WordPress site and ran the Tim Thumb vulnerability scanner, it would have picked that up. And the reason that I know that that has not been ran is because the file has not been updated since 2010. So a lot of the brute force attacks that's going on with WordPress, all it's doing is looking for old versions of sites or old versions of files like this right here that's easy to exploit. They're not trying to get into newer sites and all that. They're getting into stuff that people have uploaded and forgotten about, because it only takes one vulnerable file to completely own that entire account. So that's why it's absolutely crucial to make sure that everything is updated. So with this file, because I know that that's a vulnerable version and I'm not going to come back to it, I'm going to rename it. And then change permissions to 400. That way I can still see it. And that's the safe way to keep it on the server if you're going to do that. Just change the permissions down to 400 and no one can execute it. Now if the site's live with that theme and it needs that, then that definitely needs to be updated. But as I mentioned, with 2010, that's 4-year-old stuff, so hopefully it's not being used. So the video is getting a little long, so I'm going to do a quick wrap up and look in these other themes. So it looks like all the themes have been compromised. I'm not going to go through the same process again, just because you've already seen it. But one thing you can do go straight to the site that you're cleaning. Control U to see the source, and then look at the the theme that's mentioned. That's going to be the active theme, so all the other ones don't matter. And unfortunately, the one that I just mentioned from 2010 is the one that's actually active. So, since we know that, okay, with this folder, since it's completely compromised, change permissions, $400. And now that kills everything inside there. So that way it's still there as a place setter. Okay, the themes that come with WordPress, we're going to go ahead and delete these because we know they're not being used and they're about to be replaced anyway. Okay, plugins. There's a whole lot of stuff in here. So the main thing you want to do real quick is look at the files that are inside the directory, even if you don't go directly into all the plugins. But it's a good idea to completely replace all the code in all those. But hello is probably a good file, since that's the hello Dolly, but it might be hacked. In that case, it's not. But the edit.php is. So we need to get rid of that. So basically all you're doing is going into the top one or two layers of each folder and picking out stuff that's not supposed to be there. And as I mentioned, with each of these themes, plugins, it's a good idea to go back in and completely re-upload everything, because everything's stored in the database anyway. You can completely delete all the files, and that's how it should be. And then you re-upload everything, and since everything's stored in the database, all your settings and everything will still be there. So real quick, I'm going to go through the forum stuff, just see if I see any PHP files in there, like this one here. Okay, lost track of where that one was. Okay, image uploads. So we know that there's a vulnerability with the forum. So if that's not being used, it needs to be completely deleted. But with media uploads and image uploads, kind of hard to tell if both of those are supposed to be there or not, since they're so similar. But in this case, I'm just going to delete the file itself. Okay, the rest of these say 2010, so they should all be fine. But anything that is 2010 definitely needs to be removed. Okay, so that does it for WP content. Okay, and This is the file with the 555 permissions. We're going to go ahead and delete it. And we should be about ready to go. So any of these files that we're not sure of, we're going to keep. Even though many of them, there's no reason to have. But when in doubt, anything that says WP hyphen, we're going to delete it. The only one that you're keeping is WP config, and that's why I made a backup as a just in case. And then your htaccess and index.php. Now, if index.php was any size other than 418, I'd be deleting it too. But since it's fine, then it's safe to select all of these, all the way down to the XMLR PC. Now make sure whenever you select those, you hold down Control and click on the WP config and the WP backup too. Make sure those are unchecked, because if you delete those and you don't have a backup, you're in a world of hurt. So anyway, now we have all those, and I want to go ahead and hold down Control again and do WP includes and WP admin. So the WP content, that's as clean as it can be for now. And then we're going to delete it all. Actually, I'm going to go ahead and take out the license and the README, because those are about to be replaced anyway, just in case. Okay, now if we go to the site, refresh, it's going to be dead. It's okay, don't panic. Okay, I uploaded a new version of WordPress. I'm going to click on extract, then extract files. It's going to put everything into a WordPress folder. Hit reload, go into the WordPress folder, select all, and just so we have a good copy on hand, I want to copy instead of move the files over. So click copy, back it up from the WordPress, so you're putting it in the root, click copy file, and now all the files are back, and I noticed that folder came back and it shouldn't be there. Change permission. Okay, not sure why it won't delete. Okay, it keeps coming back. So there's something going on there. So not sure what it could be, and I'm not going to take any time on it right now. But what I will do is change the permissions to 0. and hopefully there's not going to be a file that's going to be calling that, but there must be another file that's activating that, unless it has something to do with straight permissions. But like this right here, I have absolutely no idea what that is, and it don't look safe to me. But it says backup time, and this is one of those things that, you know, it's really hard to tell if it's real or not. So you might want to change permission. In this case, I'm just going to delete it, because if that's being done by a plugin, then it'll dynamically recreate the file. Anyway, now that I've replaced the WordPress files, when I click refresh again, hopefully the site will be back. There it is. So it is just that easy to clean up a site, even though it took 45 minutes to explain it just about. And keep in mind, there's probably, you know, some stuff going on in either, you know, theme files I didn't see, but I'm pretty sure I got them all. But probably in the plugin files, where whenever the site gets a hit, it can rerun everything and reinfect the entire site. So that's why you'll see a lot of footer files and that kind of stuff, because after you spend all that time cleaning everything, as soon as someone goes to the site, it's going to call a script that you didn't find and reinfect everything. And you know, if that's the case, then everything I just did was pretty much for nothing, and you have to completely delete everything except for the WP config, and basically, well, WP config and then stuff inside the upload folder. Other than that, everything has to come off the server, and then only upload clean files. So if I reload again and I see additional stuff coming in after I've done that, then we know some bad stuff's going on that we don't know about. But you know, even though this folder is still here, at least the permissions are staying 000. So I mean, that's something that's going to require some further investigation. But other than that, the site is pretty much clean. So, and I say pretty much just because if I click delete on that folder and then reload, it comes right back. So, hard to tell what it's from or where it's coming from. And there's a good chance that since that was a subdirectory, that yeah, there could be some other sites in here with, you know, similar infections, and basically whenever someone's going to one of those other sites, it's removing stuff. So I'm not going to spend any more time on it, but that's the basic process, and unfortunately it has to be done on every site that's inside the account. And you know, it's time consuming and laborious, but sometimes you got to do it. But one little tip, I already mentioned it, but I'll mention it again since I'm closing up. Look at timestamps. You know, today at 3:28, today 3:58, you know, that kind of stuff. Whenever you see similar timestamps, especially if you know that you haven't touched anything, those are the ones that you want to go to first. And I called it right on the money. If you remember, index.php should be 418. This one is 27K. So if I open that one up, it's going to be hacked. So in any case, I'm going to close this out. and I'm not going to take the time to clean this stuff right now, but I want you to see, how it's done, so that way you'll know how to, fix it yourself. The only file I did not get into on the last one was the WP config, but it's always a good idea to open it up and look at it, and if you see any code at the top, make sure to get it gone, because WP config is one of the only files that is called every single time a page loads. So if there's hacked code inside the WP config, even if every other file is fixed, loading any page whatsoever is going to completely reinfect the entire site. And if it's one of these bots, then it's going to infect every site that's inside the cPanel account. So make sure to keep that in mind. So anyway, hopefully this is helpful, and like in the case of that folder, it's in this one too, so it's probably going to be the same thing. If I delete it and then refresh, comes right back. So there's a master loader somewhere, so it's just a matter of going through every single file and cleaning all the nastiness and then going from there. Anyway, if you need anything else, let me know, but otherwise this should be it, hopefully. Take care.